So we are the two witnesses watching the end of the world as it happens. What have you got for us?
Yes, we are. Well, I was going to talk about transgenders in sport, but I just wanted to talk about yesterday. I don't know if you saw at the Pride rally in London, a guy that was literally holding a sign that had the trans flag, an equal sign, mental illness. He was just standing there, peacefully standing there, and 11 officers crowded around him and arrested him.
I'm being arrested for expressing freedom of speech.
This gentleman has committed an offence by displaying sign or writing that is likely to cause harassment, alarm or distress.
I'm wearing a sign which says the trans flag, which is included in the Pride demonstration at great lengths, equals mental illness, which is greatly the case. That is why young people have been mutilated. That is why young people have been, that's why the Tavistock Clinic was closed down for mutilating young people.
And he was taken
Wow.
into custody for several hours just for holding that sign.
Well,
So,
it did used to be in the American, can't remember what they call it, that big American book of psychiatry and psychology that is the go-to book for all
oh
mental
yeah,
illness. And yeah, what do they call it? Body dysmorphia was in there, but it was removed very recently indeed, as a mental illness. It was always treated as a mental illness until
well in India, in
today.
they do in India now. They've designated, and I think in China as well, it's designated a mental illness.
The Pride this
Yeah,
year
so
has been a lot more low key, I
it
feel.
has been. But why did the king get involved in ours and have the blooming Coldstream Guards playing the Pink Pony Club? Anyway, back to the transgender athletes. So obviously, this week we heard that Leah Thomas is going to be stripped. Leah Will Thomas
Liam,
going to
will
be
I
stripped.
am a girl, Thomas.
Yeah, stripped of all accolades, all medals, and which is obviously great news and probably a direct result of Trump's executive order to get men out of women's sport.
And
Finally, that's
with the help of Riley Gaines, obviously.
yes, and other I think it was another swimmer as well that because basically, I mean, I can't believe it went that far. When you look at the images of Will I am Thomas, I mean, it's a bloke in a swimsuit, isn't it? And you know, how did that
Wilhelmina
get
John
so?
Thomas. Wilhelmina John Thomas. Yes. Yeah. I mean, to wear that swimsuit. I mean, he could
It's
have
just trolling,
worn
isn't it? It's trolling.
clothes. It's taking the mick. Yeah. It's just
Absolutely.
yeah, the mic.
So that obviously he's going to be stripped of all his accolades, and the girls that competed will obviously move up and get theirs. And apparently, when he was competing with the men, he was 450th in the running, and then suddenly he's number one in the women. But similarly, quite recently as well, we've heard that Imran Khalif has been asked to give back the gold medal from the
I
Olympics.
I didn't know that.
He's refusing. He's refusing, and he's going to fight it all the way. Good luck. We've got the the the
Well, it is a
chromosome
mental
report.
illness.
Well, yeah, but again, I just find it astonishing that anyone let it get that far. And what I find even more gross is that when these men were standing there on the podium, there were girls standing there smiling as if it was okay. How could they be okay with it? This is what, and if all of them said no, we're not going to do it, but then potentially if they'd done that, they would have just flooded it with men, and that would have been the end of women's sport. So I suppose in a way they were torn between carrying on to competing in the hope that eventually the men would go, or I don't know
No,
what you think about
it's a
that.
lot worse than that. The swimmers, as well as Riley Gaines, they all were complaining, and they were sent on a DEI training course and told to shut up.
Ah,
So they did try. I mean, personally, and it happens in cycling. People just don't. I would not compete against it. I would not compete
no,
against a man. So if a man turns up in the next lane, I'd be off. And if they all
yeah,
did it every time, what are they going to do? Replace? They'd have transvestite sports, wouldn't they? Or
yeah,
transsexual, whatever you want to call it. But it wouldn't be women's sports, and then the women's would be a different thing. And if it hadn't been for Riley Gaines making a stand and giving some other girls a backbone, I think we would still be looking at Leah Thomas with his gold medals and his scholarship to wherever he got as a result of it.
yeah.
Yes,
University of Pennsylvania, wasn't
he was at
he?
UPenn, yeah.
Yeah, but interestingly, and also in the last couple of weeks, I don't know if you saw that Simone Biles came out really, really aggressively against Riley Gaines for standing up for this. And I've looked into the whole transgenderism thing, and there's quite a few people online who are implying that she is an invert, as in she was born male. And it is interesting that she would be so strongly supporting transgender athletes. You know, maybe she's worried that she's going to have a cheek swab or something. I wonder if, you know, if she was indeed made to have a sex test, would she actually pass it?
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know. I'm just,
she could be intersex, like Jocasta. Do you know the runner from somewhere, Jocasta something? He's obviously a man. He's married with children, but he runs as a woman because he's intersex. But he would not pass a DNA test.
he
He's got
is a
lots of
man.
X's, but he's got a Y.
But
And
what makes him
what?
intersex?
That's
What
in.
makes him in?
Oh,
What
because
makes him intersex?
oh well, because he's not got
A boy without a winkle is a girl.
he's got a
Right.
micro one, so
It's a
it's
micro
the
penis. But like
IVF.
Imam Khalif,
These
presumably.
Yes, I mean these intersex, they still have two sexes, and most intersex problems are male. So even when they present as very feminine, they will have a Y chromosome, and they will still be better at sports than real women.
Yeah, they shouldn't be doing. They just shouldn't be. If they've got the Y chromosome, they shouldn't be engaging in women's sports, in my opinion, because they've
No, I
always got
think
an advantage.
I know it's a shame if they've been brought up as girls, but they have got an advantage. So if they've got that, they might not even know that they've got that Y chromosome until they try and
Yeah.
have children. They could
Well,
not.
people argued that about Imam Khalif, but we know for sure. I mean, he dressed as a bloke and he didn't wear the hijab.
He was married to a
You know,
woman and he had children. There's no
is
way.
he married?
So,
Imam Khalif?
I'm getting
No, no,
confused with
no. I don't think Imam Khalif is. No.
No, but I mean, he looks like a man. But there are some who grow up as girls, honestly believing they are girls, and only find out at puberty that they've got this Y
Yeah.
chromosome.
Well, do you know about John Money?
Oh God, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I've looked. I actually just stumbled across an interview from 2000 with Oprah Winfrey and the boy who basically was part of the
One
twin
of the twins.
experiment that John, yeah, and so he was alive in 2000. I knew his sibling had committed suicide. I didn't realize that he also ended up committing suicide because basically they'd been so messed up by this disgusting, perverted paedophile, John Money, who basically said, "Oh, it was an experiment that worked," and because this poor guy had a horrible circumcision that went wrong, and
Yeah.
ended up with, yeah, his private parts basically being burnt off.
Oh.
So the parents were told, "Don't worry, just raise him as a girl, and it'll be fine. You know, it's absolutely fine because sex isn't innate. You know, you're born without a gender, and you can basically,
Yeah, and it was
have whatever gender you want."
all under the supervision of John Money and his sex clinic. So it makes you wonder, how accidental was that circumcision accident? It wasn't accidental, was it?
Well, was he responsible for that as well?
Well, how
I
did
don't think he did that. I don't think
how
he
did
did
they
the
end up
procedure.
meeting
They
him?
brought
How did they end up meeting?
because he was an expert in intersex. So, so children that were neither one or the other, he would intervene and help them become one or the other because it's so fluid and at birth he said it's not assigned at birth, so you can become whatever you want basically but this poor guy, I've forgotten his name, that the twin that did survive and was brought up as the girl, always knew that he wasn't a girl,
I
because
know.
it is
He was a boy
innate.
all along. He was a very boy.
Yeah, and
There couldn't be a more boyish boy. He wanted to play with trucks. He wanted to play with the boys, and it made him depressed that he didn't fit in with the people he wanted to be with.
yeah, it was tragic, absolutely tragic.
And not only that, they were made to perform sex acts with each other, the twins, and all sorts of
While
things.
he videoed them. I mean, what a sicko.
Yeah.
And yet he's revered as being,
That's what trans is all about. It's perversion and fetish. That's all it's
Yeah.
about. And they've had to have these trans children because when these autogynephiles, as 50-year-old adults, suddenly decide they've got to put a dress on in public after they've been doing it privately for years, they say, the first thing they'll say is, I always knew I was a girl since
Yeah.
I was two.
Yeah.
Now, once someone says that, we have to see these girls, these boys who know they're girls at two. They've got to be out there
Yeah.
somewhere,
Yeah.
haven't they? But there wasn't a
So
great
there's
rash of
yeah.
people transitioning in their 50s from both sexes. It's just fetish men, usually caused by too much porn, just fetishizing.
There's that. There's that aspect in wider society, but then there's the elite gender inversion. Have you ever heard of this?
But that's
So
weird, isn't it? That's something
it's
else.
been going on forever, and in fact, so I've looked at various things. The Nazis were the first people to set up a transgender clinic in sort of 1939, I think it was, although it had been going on much longer. However, the elite gender inversion is quite dark, but it's based predominantly on the Jewish what's it called? Not the Torah, the Talmud,
What?
because there are 8 genders, and their ultimate aim is to go back to
Are you sure about
Adam,
that?
as in the androgyny. Yeah.
I mean, with
What do you call it?
intersex babies, when they're born, you can't tell what they are. So it
Mm.
used to be that they'd be brought up as girls in Western countries. In Jewish, because the law is so prescriptive about what a man and a woman is, they would have had to account for that in their law. So if it's got this description of the 8 different things and how you would class them, but it's nothing to do with identity. It's nothing to do with self-identification or choice. It's what you see as a biological reality with those children.
They do it in utero. So at 8 weeks, they basically will give the opposite hormone to what. So they test the woman's blood. If she's got
Who do it? Is
testosterone,
this the elites doing their
this
inversion?
is the elites. Yeah. So they'll test the woman's blood, and if she's got testosterone, they will give her the opposite sex hormones, so that when the child's born, it will be pretty much androgynous, and then it's got for the rest of its life, it will be given the opposite sex hormones to
Oh my
maintain the.
God.
But this happens with in everyone in Hollywood. They've all got transgender children.
Mm.
So it's basically it's like they're creating these. And I've always thought this when they started saying trans, 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 I thought, I know what they're going to do. They're going to then extrapolate that to transhumanism. And these Hollywood people who are all transitioning their children, they're like assets because they'll get funding, they'll get advertising, because this is the way that the elites are sending society. They want everyone to be basically androgynous or malleable or not one or the other,
Yeah, I mean
confused.
it's mostly about disassociation because once you're not sure about what gender you are, you, well, all you have to do is go on YouTube and watch transgender girls being turned into boys with the skin off their arm being peeled off, rolled into a tube, and then months and months of incontinence, infections, sepsis, and they don't seem to care. Just not thinking about the details, just how they talk about it. They don't care. They don't care about themselves anymore. They've disassociated. And
Yeah.
that's what it does. And that's what they're trying to create. Because unless you disassociate, you're not going to have Neuralink. No
No,
one's going to go for Neuralink when
no.
when you're not disassociated. You have to think that you are
It's
a soul. You have to start thinking, I'm a soul. My body doesn't mean anything. And that's
but
the way they'll
a
get you to
lot.
take this stuff.
But I think a lot of stuff in schools now is basically that they're telling them they're born in the wrong body, which means that so either is there a body out there for me, or does my body not count? So yeah, you're right.
You are a separate thing. To be born in the wrong body, you must be a separate thing from your body.
Yeah,
That's not.
but it's weird, the antithesis of the soul, because they're trying to get rid of the soul. So do the whole a lot of this stuff with the geoengineering and the jabs is literally to kill the pineal gland, as we've already talked about, which
Kill
is
your
basically the
religious
seat of the soul.
curiosity. It's to kill your religious leanings.
Well,
You,
it's to kill your higher self, your soul, your
yeah.
anything aspirational outside of your body.
Mm.
So that it's all contradictory in a way because you're saying that you've got no soul, but then you've got no body either. So you're nothing. You just,
Well, no,
you
trans
know,
definitely they say you have got a soul because your soul's in the wrong body. Your soul has a gender and it's in the wrong body.
they
So
don't talk about the soul though in that. I mean,
no, but that's what they're saying, isn't it? That the essence of you, whatever that is something separate from your actual body.
well, no, what they're saying is your sex and your gender are completely disassociated. That's the disassociation. So but you might be born and they say you've got XX chromosomes. That doesn't matter because you're like an empty shell that can be whatever you feel like you want to be.
Yeah, so
So,
it's encouraging disassociation from your body.
mm.
It's like these people who feel that they should be a unidexter and want a doctor to cut the leg off. Now, we don't really go around doing that a lot. But when
They
people
used to.
say,
I watched years
oh,
and years ago,
well,
I
you
saw a
people,
whole documentary on that.
mm,
People having parts of their body off to feel better about, but
yeah.
what surgeon would do that?
Well, the same ones who do trans surgeries,
I
children
know.
or young or people too young to know what they're doing, which is anybody under the age of about 28, really. No one that young
No.
should be allowed to do something so catastrophic to themselves.
But I mean, the transgender thing is being pushed and pushed and pushed, isn't it? I mean, it's everywhere. And I don't know if you read recently, Mrs. Macron. So she had a surgeon who operated on her face in 2019. Specializes for the last 40 years in making men look more like women. And miraculously, he managed to fall out of his apartment window and die 3 days before he was due to give evidence about
Well, he was going to
Mrs.
do an
Macron
interview. He was going to do an
or an interview
interview
now.
with information he'd got from another tranny doctor that he worked with, who'd actually done the surgery supposedly on Macron's missus. Quite interestingly, to tying in with that, whatever, Brigitte went
Bridget.
to, I think it must have been a Muslim country because they were shaking hands with all these Muslim men, and the Muslim men were quite happy to shake his hand.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah,
That's
there were a
interesting.
couple who were a bit puzzled and weren't sure, but everybody else, yeah, okay, it's a man.
Then, yeah, yeah.
That's
But I mean,
that's. I think I saw that on X, so I don't know how truthful it was, but that's what it looked like.
but anyway, I was trying to work out when would the first trans athletes have appeared because they seem to have,
Very good
uh,
question.
but I found this article that basically says discrimination against trans Olympians has roots in Nazi Germany. So basically, a Czechoslovakian guy. I can't see here. There's details of when it was, but it was way back, way back in the early. I think it is in black and white, so it's that old. So
Well, yeah, I mean the Danish girl, and that was set in 19th century, wasn't it? And
yeah,
he had a uterus transplant, didn't he? When just at the turn of the century, of course, it killed him. But yeah, yeah. So that this fetish nonsense has been going on for a long, long time. And before that, there was the what do they called that movement of people who cut the bits off, nullification. That was a religious movement from medieval times, still going on till recent. Well, it's still going on now. What do
but
you
I mean
call
that's slightly different from trying to change your sex from one thing to another,
Yes,
isn't
but
it?
the people doing the surgeries are all getting the same gratification, aren't they?
Mm,
I mean, they'll
yeah.
have a whole society, an underground society of eunuch makers and people who want to be eunuchs. And then they'll film the eunuch making and they'll watch it and get a lot of gratification from it. And that's where John Money was at, I think. It's that sort of dark side of sadomasochism gone further than it.
And on children as well, making it even
Yeah.
worse. But what I'm struggling with all this thing is obviously these elites want to continue their bloodline. So if all these people are having this surgery to make them infertile, clearly, they're never going to have children, these people, because everything's screwed up. But I watched a horrific video that I know must be AI that showed a baby sort of being born in a kind of a sack that doesn't need
Oh yeah, yeah. We'll
parents.
find that and we'll show that. Yeah.
So that must be what their aim. So total disassociation from humanity. So,
Well,
you know,
they want to live forever. They want to create life in a test tube. They want to be God. So you can't have women going around having babies if they're God. The only people who can be having babies is these elite men, you know. And I think we've
mm,
got, so it's all surrogacy and IVF. And I would imagine we're not that far away from babies growing out without a woman, not needing a woman, because these men,
mm.
they're just so weird. They want to be women because we create life. That's what it
Yeah,
is.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
what they
It's
want.
jealousy. It's absolute
Um,
jealousy,
and they
and
fetishize it as well. So, and that's
yeah,
what they'll do. So they'll live forever with their surrogate IVF monster babies, probably made with synthetic DNA. And yeah, what a lovely world. I'm glad I'll be gone. Don't want to stick up
yeah.
for that one.
But there was something else I just wanted to. What was this? Yeah, yeah. So, the first transgender clinic was in 1919. It was the Institute of Sex Research, opened in 1919 by the Jews Magnus Hirschfeld and Arthur Kronfeld in Berlin. And in 1933, the Hitler Youth burned it to the ground. But it was all based on the men thinking they could become the women. But it's
Like,
like
I mean,
the whole thing is anti-God, isn't it? Anti-God
it's
because
it's just anti-human. It's
it's
anti-human.
inverted,
And
inverted.
the thing is, if you were thinking about it biblically, all those angels that got chained on earth, they were jealous of humans because they didn't have children. And they don't live forever. The angels weren't eternal beings either, but that humans were made in God's image. So Satan and all his little sides
Help us.
that's it. Satan and all his little helpers, they want to give up our humanity because then they've won. The creation is no
Yeah.
longer in God's image and there's nothing left to save. So it was all for nothing. So there is a bit of that there. But then you start thinking, really, are they really this religious? But they are, aren't they? Because they spend their whole time performing rituals to
Yeah.
satanic gods.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And the whole of the Hollywood elite and all of the elite, I mean, that's a terrible word. They're just weirdos, aren't they? But they're all worshipping Satan, and they're all, I mean, so many people are the inverts. Like Taylor Swift, I know she's an invert. I've seen
she's
the
got the
Lily.
longest legs in the industry. Mostly because she's a bloke, maybe.
Maybe. I mean, you can tell. I mean,
When she
I
walks,
know again.
she's had a lot of training because people were commenting on it. Because she used to walk very round shouldered with her stomach stuck out and her legs sort of and she's improved a bit. She stands up a bit straighter now, but
She
she was
can't
very
dance for toffee, though. Have you
blokey.
seen her supposed
Yeah, very
dancing?
blokey.
Mhm. Yeah, and Lady Gaga's a bloke. I mean, they come that you see interviews and they say that they are. I'm a man, and people think, oh, you're joking, but they're telling
Yeah,
us
Lady
they are.
Gaga very famously spent quite a long time talking about that with someone, didn't she?
There was that rumor that you had a male appendage, that you were a hermaphrodite.
Maybe I do.
But it's
Will
interesting.
it be so terrible?
But it's interesting. A lot of artists.
She is one of these. She's an elite invert, but I wonder who decides. And this is I don't know what you think about this. I think, but some of these people actually are quite talented and they can sing. Is that fluke or is it? I don't know, because some of them are terrible, but I guess the ones that turn out to be good make the money, so they keep them. But when they first decide that they're going to invert someone in the womb or whatever, or trans them from an early age, how do they know that they're going to be good at acting or singing? Or, I mean, that's not something they can implant, is it?
I don't know. Is Taylor Swift good at singing?
Well, no, but she's obviously good at putting on a show.
Well,
No, she's no
is
good.
she good at putting on a show, or are her management team good at putting on a show?
Well, she's good at
She exactly do,
mesmerizing
apart from wear a
audiences.
leotard. I'm not really
I
sure what
don't.
she does. She mimes the whole thing, so
When her first song before she turned to Satanism, so maybe she wasn't already created like that.
she's the
Maybe they've
daughter
done
of a
things to her
banker, though,
since.
a high up banker, isn't she?
Ah, I
Yeah.
don't
And
know.
it's all these banking, law, and finance people who seem to
Mm.
be at the heart of it. The
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, apparently Jim Morrison's dad was either, I think, CIA. So he was in,
Oh,
and
that's
the
the
Doors
thing,
were,
isn't it? It's the MK Ultra stuff, where people were giving over their children to have
yeah.
this
Well,
MK
yeah,
Ultra.
the Doors were created apparently to make drug use
Yes,
more
I've
widespread, and
seen that. Yeah, that's something we could talk about another week. The way that it has all been used specifically to brainwash us all. TV, music,
yeah,
film,
yeah,
art,
everything.
cinema. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when you think about what the arts were and what they are now, I mean, it used to be ballet and opera and all very highbrow and very nice and classical music. And what is it now? It's Tracy Emin and it's everything that's ugly and brutal is
Yeah,
brilliant. And everything
it's
that's
got rid of
beautiful has no
it's
value.
inverted.
It's an inversion. It's another inversion. Yeah.
Mm,
Mm.
yeah, it's the upside
Yeah.
down cross.
Yeah, so yeah, I think there was the Supreme Court in England overturned the idea that sex was a choosable factor and it was going to be
Yes, yeah.
biological. The activists who turned up to fight against that outside the courtroom were a bit pathetic. There's only about 20 of them, and since Trump got in, there's a visible lack of support. The top-down support has gone, and what I see is that the trans movement was always top-down. It was never grassroots up.
Mm. Oh
So
no,
once all
no.
the corporates drop out, and so Unison aren't turning up, Red Wedge aren't turning up to every tranny pride event, there's hardly anybody there. And the people who
It's
do turn
still
up
in the
are a bunch
schools
of
though.
weak perverts. Yeah.
It's still it's embedded, entrenched in the education system, right from, like 3-year-olds right through to university, and that they've managed to do that over a long time. And I don't know how they're going to get rid of it. I mean, it's a generation
I
that
think
really believes
everyone
this.
who doesn't feel they want their children learning it needs to homeschool. It's as simple as that. Or they need to see all the materials that the school is teaching.
They're
And
refusing to let parents see it, aren't they?
they're not allowed to anymore. The Tories brought a law in banning that about 3 years ago. Because that was going on a lot in religious studies and PSHE, where outside companies were coming in and teaching things, and they said, "Oh, well, it's copyrighted, so we can't let you see it." The government said, The parents
Oh,
have.
well, no, Labour have overturned that because
Oh,
they are
have they?
stating categorically that they're not that parents do not have the right to see what's being taught
Well, that's the
by the school
way.
itself.
That is the
Sorry.
Marxist way. That's the Marxist
Yeah,
way. But
yeah,
yeah, I
yeah.
mean, I would homeschool because I mean, you can't even escape it in the private sector. It's just as bad.
No.
Everyone's been educated in this way, and it's just going to carry on until they're replaced, and they're never going
And
to.
even
They.
even in the church, they've got they're welcoming it, even celebrating it. The pride flags in churches. I mean, it's so deeply entrenched that I don't know how easy it's going to be to overturn it, but
Well, with corporates dropping out, I think there's a chance because you don't get all the funding. And drop it if they're not funding DEI, all those stupid little companies that are going around to schools and things will run out of money. So
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Did you see that? You remember the Jaguar advert? This ridiculous. Do you know that their profits of their sales have gone down 97.5% in Europe since April, since that ridiculous advert? Good.
Yeah, I mean the only thing they've got for sale is the new car and it's electric anyway. That's all they've got. That's all they've got. So that disastrous advertising campaign, even if they've only got the electric car, so you'd be waiting for it. You'd be on a waiting list. There's
Yeah,
no waiting list. There's nothing. There's no
yeah.
income. There's nothing.
So why is Keir Starmer always at the Jaguar Land Rover factory? That's, he spends any time he's in this country, which is very rarely. He's always standing there at that factory with the crowd behind him.
He's always somewhere with a crowd behind him, isn't he?
Yeah,
Can't
yeah, they're all
stand up
paid
for himself.
actors.
Like he's terrified of being on his own in front of everybody. He just can't stand up for himself
No,
at all. No.
no, he's
Um,
just an empty vessel.
yeah, yeah. He needs to go.
Yeah, let's get Orange in instead.
Ange.
The
Orange.
ginger growler.
Oh, she'd just be so much better, wouldn't she? She would be infinitely better.
Yeah, sorry, I was going to say the Pride March yesterday. They showed the I don't know if these people were proper recruits for the army, or they were all in the army gear. Huge people.
And were they
I don't
actually
know who these.
military?
I think so.
And what were they at?
Because they were with it was Horse Guards. Well, you know the
Oh, I see.
Coldstream Guards, and they were behind them
Oh, right.
parading.
What I wanted to talk about was cancer, which isn't very
Mm.
exciting, I'm afraid. But obviously, as a critical thinker, conspiracy theorist, critical thinker, whatever, uh, I looked on the internet and found that a lot of people believe that in 1937, the UK banned finding a cancer treatment. And you'll see lots of blogs about the Cancer Act of 1937, which banned anyone from ever finding a cure for cancer. Well, that's not actually true. Not even close to true. What the 1937 Act did was it allowed the government to lend money to the National Radium Institute. That was its
Mm.
primary purpose.
This is the UK we're talking about.
Yeah. So in 1937, the government brought out a bill so that it could lend money to the National Radium Institute. Under the auspices of looking for cures for cancer and things. And in the same bill, it banned the advertising to the public to say that you have a cure for cancer because there was an awful lot of that sort of thing going around and people were being duped. And it was more about fraud. It came under local authority governance in trade. It is currently it's under trading standards law, what was passed in the 1937 Act. So, having debunked that critical thinking conspiracy theory a little bit, it just struck me, why would the government want to lend money in 1937? 1939, was it? To the,
37.
I need to get my slides just
To the National Radium Board.
yeah, let me just,
I mean, what even was the National Radium Board?
It was a board that was set up to well, there were people who dug up uranium, and made radium. Let me just get it.
For what purpose at that stage?
Right. Obviously because people were experimenting with radium because Marie Curie had separated it out from pitchblende. Radium was one of those strange things. It glows in the dark. It gives off energy. And you know how people were at the turn of the century? They thought that anything that was glowing in the dark and giving off energy would give you life, rejuvenating power. So they'd stick it in your water and you could drink radiated water, a little bit of radium in your water to make a tonic. Swallow a radium pill, eat a radium sweet. It's going to make you full of energy and invigorate you because it's full of life. And that life could pass on to things around it because what they noticed was that if they put radium in on a table with something else, the thing next to it would also have that energy as well. So lots of rather silly thinking about what radium was and what it could do for the human body.
Do you honestly think that at that time they believed that it was going to be beneficial? Or do you think they'd already started at that point with the depopulation agenda?
I think that some people, well, right, so this is in 1939 that the Cancer Act allowed the government to start lending money to the Radium Trust, the National Radium Trust. In 1914-18 war, the Radium Girls had painted all the clocks and watches for companies like Westclocks. And by 1920, they were already starting to get ill. And certainly before 1939, they'd already sued the clock company for all the cancers and mostly bone cancer and leukemia that they'd caught from licking their brushes with the radium paint on it. So I don't think anybody didn't know the dangers of radium by 1939. So it does make
And why were they lending money rather than giving money? What's the thing there with the
well,
lending?
lending, giving. You're not going to get giving through Parliament, are you? But lending some money just for a little while. Yeah. Just while we develop the bomb for the war. Yeah. So that's what it. So I thought, yes, it's not a conspiracy theory about banning cancer treatments, but was it ever going to be a cancer treatment? From the moment radium was discovered, people obviously uranium was discovered because that's where it comes from as well. Not the pitch blende, but radium is very, very scarce in its natural form in rocks. It's in uranium, so you have to get uranium rocks. And very early on, 1920 or so, a German scientist was pointing out that this would make a massive explosion. One of these rocks, these uranium rocks, could make an incredible bomb. And then, of course, in 1939, we're at war with Germany. And that's when we decide we want to lend money to the Radium Board, who would be not digging up radium, they'd be digging up uranium. So,
But I thought they had to split the atom before that any of that would actually cause the explosion.
no, uranium is quite it will burn. It will cause a big explosion. They knew this from quite early on. They originally thought radium would be able to make nuclear bombs, but it was the uranium that turned out to be the better thing. But in 1939, they were already working on that. And then they bring out this thing about curing cancer with radiotherapy. So that's why they were digging up the uranium. It was for medical use, and this bill proved it. And if you think about what Iran is doing, digging up lots of uranium, we all get in a tiz because they're processing it into more powerful forms of uranium, aren't we? What do they call it?
Yeah. Enriching? No.
They're enriching uranium. You only
Mm.
need 3% uranium. You only need 3% uranium for medical needs. Does anybody need uranium for medical needs? Well, yes, because we all say we do, because of radiotherapy. So we
But everybody
need.
knows that those treatments, well, they don't know, but it's a documented fact that those treatments tend to do more harm than good.
Well, this is the thing. You see, when it was first brought out, that someone cured colon cancer with it, with a radium, I think it was a radium tablet that they made the person eat. Of course, the cure wasn't very well documented. They were on other treatments as well. This is in sort of 1920 or somewhere around there. And the patient died. So which bit was the cure? Not sure.
Well, it cured it from everything else.
But obviously, our nuclear bomb research was secret. So, how would you justify digging up all this uranium when everyone knows how dangerous radioactivity is? So, you'd have to come up with something. And I'm not saying that's what happened, but I'm just wondering, are we stuck with this hideous cancer treatment because it's what was used to hide the Manhattan Project? Is that all it?
And it's an interesting theory for sure. But also, I mean, some people say that there have been cures for cancer around for decades that have been suppressed. I mean, some people say ivermectin, for example, is very, very effective in combination with other things at, curing stage 4 cancer. There's testimony after testimony on X of people who've actually survived, when they've given weeks to live and years on, they're still going strong, still taking various concoctions that they've worked out themselves. Nothing to do with radiotherapy or chemotherapy.
Mm. Well, I mean, look at the stick Elle Macpherson got when she wouldn't go for the chemo and radiotherapy. She was pilloried, I mean, for making her own choices about her own life.
Well, I mean, just in the last week, this or last 2 weeks, I forget the name, but the girl, the Cambridge graduate in her 20s died, and her mother's been absolutely slated, not only by the BBC for, attempting alternative cures. The girl herself didn't want the intervention from the hospital.
If you're not
And
allowed,
look at
if it's so good for you, why are you not allowed to make the choice? Why will they hold a gun to your head and then make you out of some kind of nutter? If it's so good for you, why the strong arm
well,
tactic?
why would you even want to opt out of it? It was so effective and good for you. You
Yeah,
wouldn't,
I
would
mean,
you?
the side effects of radiotherapy are hideous. I mean, depending on where your cancer is, if it's in brain cancer, you get brain swelling. You can be turned into a vegetable quite easily. If it's breast cancer, it damages your heart and can damage your heart to the point where it will kill you. And if it's prostate cancer, you can have double incontinence, uh, erectile dysfunction. I mean, do you really want to live in that kind of circumstance? And of course, all the burns are very painful, and you get the fibrous growths. And the worst thing
It's actually it's horrific. It's barbaric.
So, yeah, what happened? Yeah, I was there. I heard the whole thing. Weintraub says radical chemotherapy or she's gonna croak, just like that. Well, what about Gottlieb? He spiked. All he talked about was image therapy. I thought they were gonna punch each other out.
Unbelievable.
Do you have a different view, Doctor?
Sounds like the goddamn Spanish Inquisition to me.
we've known since day one almost that radiation is damaging. In the 1920s, there was a scientist working with fruit flies who used radium to cause genetic mutations in his fruit flies. You know, we've always been looking at fruit flies, these eugenicist evolutionists have always been. What he was trying to do was make a massive change that would prove evolution. What did he use? Radium, because that will cause catastrophic damage to DNA and might cause a massive change. And this girl that you were talking about in Cambridge, she was in her 20s. Now, when radiotherapy was first introduced, cancer survival, if there was any at all, was 5 years. So if you're 70 years old and you've got an enormous tumor on your spine and a bit of radiation will shrink it for a couple of years, so you're not in pain, that makes sense. If you're 20 and have radiotherapy treatment, you're going to get a secondary cancer from the radiation. So what would be the point?
Yeah, there wouldn't be any point.
Well, so you only have
Which is
to
why.
live, 5 to 10 years instead of up to 5 years for that to be a stark reality of your life. So not only would you have a lot of damage, you're going to be living in fear for when that second tumor appears. When's it going to arrive?
Yeah.
Because you've been irradiated. So yes, so that was my big question of this week. Was it why do we do radiotherapy? Does it work for anybody? And if it's
Yeah.
causing all these horrific side effects, what's the point of it?
Yeah, presumably there's a lot of money to be made because quite recently Johnson and Johnson have been found out that basically the talcum powder has caused cervical cancer, and the sunscreen that they created the cancer that they then quite handily have a treatment for. It's basically create the illness, cure it, or be on a lifetime of you needing more and more of their products.
And radium is incredibly expensive. Uranium was always incredibly expensive. And so why have we got a National Radium Board or whatever it's called, trust?
Yeah. Do we still have
away
that?
before the NHS giving it away to hospitals? Here, have this, please have it. Why? When it's so expensive and it's cute.
Causes more harm than good.
It's questionable. Yeah. So it's always made me wonder. We know that if there's a nuclear bomb, we're all going to get cancer. So why would
you've started me think you've started me on a real conspiracy theory now. Maybe the NHS was only created to hide the radium.
No. Well, this is a strange thing that we have an NHS, but a lot of countries were sorting out healthcare at the time. But it is this thing with the vaccines. If they're so good for you, why do they have to hold a gun to your head when you just say no?
And if they're so good for you, why do you need 25 of them for one disease?
Why do they care? Why do they care? Why are they so bothered if you want to say no?
Well, and like someone else pointed out, if it's so good for you and it's free, why isn't insulin free? Why aren't all the other treatments free that are so good for you? Why is it just this one that's free? You can have as many as you want and have more, all free.
Yeah, indeed. My funny thing was that an archaeological dig at Hadrian's Wall had unearthed 8 very large shoes. Like size 47 shoes. So they were 30 to 32 centimeters long, these shoes. And I just was thinking about these Romans guarding Hadrian's Wall, who obviously had such bigger feet than everybody else, much, much bigger feet than the locals. And I just wondered if they were trannies, because whenever you see trans models, they always have huge feet.
Yes, but surely you must know about the giants.
Oh no, I know, but if there were huge shoes. If a company advertises a woman's frock to me that's been worn by a man with size 11 feet and some hideous Doc Martin style Jesus sandal on
You
it,
ain't buying it.
I ain't buying.
This is the way you can tell the inverts because they look like a woman and then you span down to their feet and they're like canal barges.
It's like the invaders. No, no. Don't look at the
Yes.
finger. Although they tend to do that as well. Don't look at the finger. Look at the size of the hands and the feet. And then see how often they're like this.
Yeah.
I just cannot leave the hair alone because it's a fetish. They have to be touching it all the time. So yes. Yes. So yeah, so the big tranny shoes was my highlight of the week. And with that.